Now, I've used commands a whole awful lot in my life, and so in an effort to diversify the increasingly repetitive content of my channel, I'm going to be making a command tier list. That's right, I'm going to rank almost every single command that exists in Java Edition, so buckle up, because this is going to be a long one. Also, obviously, this is just my opinion, so we're probably going to disagree about some things, but who really cares? Okay, enough. So, going alphabetically, we start off with /advancement. Here's the thing about /advancement. On its own, it's kind of useless. I mean, how often do you really have to modify players' vanilla advancements? But, with that being said, custom advancements in a data pack are incredibly useful. So even though those don't really count as being part of /advancement, I'm going to give /advancement a B because they are just so helpful. Next up, we have /attribute, which is actually kind of the opposite of /advancement. What I mean by that is it does some pretty useful things, but at the same time, everything it does can be also done by other methods, just with a little bit more difficulty. But it does make a whole lot of things a lot simpler and easier to deal with, so I'm going to give this one a C. Jumping ahead to /bossbar, I would say that boss bars are pretty cool. They're a nice way to visually show a player's score or just all kinds of things. But with that being said, there's actually no way to use /bossbar to change the value of a boss bar based on a scoreboard. So that makes the actual command itself slightly less useful. So I'm going to give this one another B. Alright, next up we have /clear. I think /clear is pretty great. The thing is, not only can it remove items from a player's inventory, which is on its own very helpful, but when used with /execute, it can also be used to count how many of an item are in a player's inventory. That's something which is incredibly helpful, so I'm going to give this one an A. It's not S because it's still pretty niche, but it's really helpful for what it does. Alright, next up we have /clone. /clone is another one which I think is really helpful. It's super nice to have a way to just copy structures. It's incredibly helpful when building in creative, and honestly I even use it in more complex contraptions as well. But with that being said, it's a little bit hard and unintuitive to learn how to use, so I'm gonna give it, I'll give it a B. Even though it's helpful, it's still fairly limited in its use, and I don't know that I can quite justify giving it an A. Not that any of this really matters anyway. /data. /data is pretty huge. It's just generally the easiest way to modify and get NBT data from an item or an entity or a block. I'm gonna have to give this one an S. It's really nice. It does a lot of things. It's great for manipulating all that NBT, which is a super huge deal to begin with. NBT is just central to so many command block things. Okay, /datapack. I mean, is this one even worth reviewing? It literally just lists the data packs you have loaded. I mean, it's like a D or something. I don't know. It's like, yeah, you kind of need it, but it's not that helpful. /default game mode. This is kind of the same thing. I'm just going to put it in D again. It does what it does, but how often do you actually have to switch the default game mode? Wow, and look, the next one, again, /difficulty. It's just, this one I'm gonna actually have to put in F, I'd say. I mean, how often do you need to change the game mode using a command block? I mean, just go into the menu and do it there. It's not that difficult. Okay, then we have /effect. I'm going to give /effect an A. It's nice to be able to easily control the effects that all the entities have, but it doesn't really do anything else. It's not quite as central to gameplay as /data is, so yeah. Next up is /enchant, and actually, /enchant for me is so close to being a really, really helpful command, but it's just not. So I would say similar to /effect, /enchant is nice because it's an easy way to control something about the players, in this case their enchantments. However, unlike with /effect, /enchant doesn't let you go above the default limit for an enchantment, and it also doesn't let you put on incompatible enchantments. If you want to do that, you have to go through NBT, which that alone I'd say just pushes it down to a C, because at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything that you can't do just using an anvil. Okay, next up we have /execute. This one is like an S+++. /execute is absolutely enormous, dude. Just anytime you want a conditional loop, like anything you need to do in complex creations, you use /execute. I mean, when you look at my data packs or even just my command creations I make for my videos, something like 80% of the commands are probably just /execute. Like, honestly, at this point, I didn't even think of it as like a single command. It's just like a command framework. It's not even fair to compare it to these other ones. Alright, moving on, we have slash experience. I mean, honestly, I don't really know what to say about slash experience because I almost never use it. I mean, it's fine. It does what it does. I'd say it's another one of those ones that does what it does, but what it does is not particularly helpful to me most of the time. So I think based on that, I'm once again going to put it in a C. Okay, slash fill. Slash fill is an interesting one because here's the thing. When you're building in creative, slash fill is absolutely huge. It's pretty easy to use with a little bit of practice, and it just makes building everything so much faster and easier. But at the same time, I almost never use it in anything more complex. So, I mean, I don't know. I would say, based on that, I'll give it an A, because it is really helpful and it's really intuitive, unlike slash clone, but it's just hard to justify giving it an S. Okay, after slash fill, we have slash force load. I would say that force loading chunks is incredibly useful, and slash force load is really the only way to do it. So I would say this is another one that does what it does, but this time what it does is actually really helpful. Incredibly profound, I know. So I'm gonna give it, I don't think, it's still a pretty small thing, so I can't quite justify giving it an A, but why don't I give it a B? That seems reasonable. Next up, we have slash function. I mean, yeah, if you don't have a data pack, then this is completely useless, but at the same time, it provides a solid, 70% of the use of a data pack as far as I'm concerned. So while it doesn't work on its own, it's so useful with data packs that I'm gonna have to give it an S just for that. Next up is slash game mode. I'd say much like slash force load, this does what it does, and it does something really useful. And, it does it well, it's fine. I don't know, dude. B? Sure. Everyone likes switching game modes. Now we have slash game rule. So the interesting thing is, for me at this point, slash game rule has been made kind of obsolete. The thing is, at this point, I almost always set all of my preferred game rules as I'm creating a world, and then I never actually run the slash game rule function. So really the only time that game rule is useful is when you want to change a game rule in the middle of a game, I guess. So I still think that because the concept of game rules is incredibly useful, this deserves a B. I don't think I can give it any higher than that, just because I almost always use just the world generation settings instead of the command. Next up is slash give. I'm actually kind of debating between an A and an S on this one. I mean, slash give is the best way to get custom NBT edited items, and so for that reason it's really useful, but I think the thing is, it's just not quite on the same, fundamentally, dramatically useful level as slash data and slash function are, so I'm just gonna stick with an A, I think. Okay, now we have slash help. This one is I don't know, a C or something. It's, in theory, really nice, but as far as I can tell, the messages for most of the commands are just not sufficient to actually learn them. If I want to learn how a function actually works, I either just figure it out myself or I go to the Minecraft wiki. So it's not that good. Slash item is up next. Slash item is pretty new, and I haven't had a chance to work with it a whole lot, but it seems like an absolute game changer. It seems like slash item makes it actually possible to modify the items when they're in a player's inventory, which is huge. And it seems like, especially if you're using it with the data pack, there's just a ton that you can do with it. So maybe this is a little bit unfair because I've barely actually used it, but I'm gonna give it an S. And if you don't like that, you can yell at me in the comments, and I will probably like and heart it like I do every single comment. Next up, we have slash kill. It's a little bit difficult to dispute the usefulness of this one, I think. I mean, I use this one all the time, so, sure, A, why not? Okay, next up we have slash list. This one can either list the players on the server or the UUIDs of the players on the server. I think either way, there are easier and better ways to do this thing, so probably for me, this is just gonna be, I'm a D, maybe even an F. Let's go with F. Why not? I've never used this. If you want UUIDs, you're better just checking the data of the player, I think. And if you want the names, you're better off just pressing tab. Next up is slash locate. I mean, sure, it's nice to have it. If you're in creative and you want to see a fancy structure, or if you're in survival and you just can't find the fortress and you're lazy, either way, it's really helpful to have there. But do I ever use it in any kind of complicated contraption? No. No, I do not. So let's give it a C. Slash locate biome, believe it or not, I'm going to give this one a C as well for the exact same reasons. Slash loot. This is another one of those unique ones which is really, really helpful when used in conjunction with a data pack, and kind of otherwise. Yeah, I'd say it's like exactly like slash advancement. It's like it's tied closely to something really helpful, but on its own it's not that great. So I'm just gonna give it whatever I gave slash advancement, which I don't remember because I haven't been writing these down. Next up we have slash me. Apparently slash me, quote, displays a message about the sender. It seems like it's slash say, but weird. So, I don't know, dude. F? Why does this exist? What does it do? I don't understand. Next up we have slash MSG, aka slash tell, aka slash W. I don't play SMPs very often, but I think that if I did, I would use this a lot. I don't really want to give it a B. That seems a little bit generous. So why don't I give it a C? Jumping ahead, we have slash particle. I am going to give this one an A. Even though the command is a tiny bit unintuitive to use a lot of the time, particles are a great way to add some life and vigor to any creation you make. But seriously, I mean, it looks cool, it's fun, it's helpful. We'll give it an A. Next up is slash play sound, which is actually kind of the same as slash particle. I mean, it's an unintuitive command, which does something that is entirely aesthetic. However, I personally feel that I just don't use slash play sound as much as I use slash particle, so I'm just gonna give it a B instead of an A. Next up we have slash recipe, which is actually kind of an interesting one. Just like slash loot and slash advancement, it is a command for controlling something that is almost entirely useful only in data packs. That is to say, it's a little bit difficult to imagine a situation in which you want to grant or revoke vanilla recipes from a player, but the concept of custom recipes from a data pack is one which, in theory, sounds really good. The issue for me is that, in practice, data pack recipes are kind of useless, because you can't customize the NBT data of the recipe. That means you can only make recipes which use and give vanilla items, which is dramatically less useful, and I would argue kind of useless even. So, if you could use the NBT, I'd probably give it like an A. Since you can't, it's gonna have to be like a C. It's just, I don't know, dude. Next up we have slash reload. This reloads a data pack. I use it all the time, but is it like some kind of stellarly amazing command? No. I mean, it does what it does, and I really need it in order to work, but it's a little bit hard to get excited about it. So, I don't know, like a B, sure. I don't know. Next up we have slash say. Slash say just publishes a message to chat. On paper, this is kind of useless because you can just press T and type your message and press enter, but in reality, I use it for bug fixing so often. It's just super nice to be able to check if a command is actually working in the first place, so I use it all the time, so A, sure. Next up is slash schedule. This one lets you schedule a function to run sometime in the future. Now the issue with it is that it is specifically only a function. That is to say, you can't have it just schedule a single command for sometime in the future. You have to go in and make a data pack function in order to use slash schedule. Also, each function can only be scheduled once at a time, and also the entity running the command is not saved through the scheduling. So I still use it a lot. It could be like an S probably, but instead it's a B, because it's just not quite as helpful. Slash seed. I've never used it, but it's kind of necessary, so C. Slash set block. It's like slash fill, but worse, so whatever I gave slash fill, but -1. Slash set world spawn. I don't know why this isn't part of slash game rule, but it exists and it's kind of helpful. It's probably a C as well. I'm putting a lot of things in C, but I don't care. Slash spawn point. This is mildly more useful than slash set world spawn, but not that useful, so B probably. Slash spectate. Wait, since when is this a thing? What does this do? It causes a player in spectator mode to spectate another entity. How did I not know this existed? I've never used this, but it seems like it could be kind of helpful. So, I don't know, B? Slash spread players. Slash spread players is useful. I use it a lot to teleport entities around and randomly generate numbers and all kinds of things, actually. I would say this actually deserves an A, probably, because I use it quite frequently and it's really helpful to just be able to teleport entities to random locations. Slash stop sound. Once again, I'm not quite sure why this isn't part of slash play sound. It's kind of helpful, I suppose. Probably it deserves like a C or something, because I almost never use it, but it does in fact exist, and it is in fact moderately helpful. Slash scoreboard. I mean, scoreboards are just the entire variable system of Minecraft commands. I mean, need I say more? That's an easy S. So much of what I do involves scoreboards in some way or other, and yes, a lot of it goes through slash execute, but slash scoreboard and the scoreboard system is just so critical that I can't justify not giving it an S. Okay, next up we have slash summon. This is probably an A. Much like slash give, it's something that lets you make custom things, and I use it all the time, but it's not quite so central to command block creations as some other things are. Slash tag. This deserves an S, probably. I use tags all the time, like all the time, and once again, some of that is through slash execute, but the tag system on its own is just so helpful that this easily deserves an S. Slash team. I don't use teams for too many things, but they are definitely helpful for some things, so I'm gonna give this a B. Slash team message. This is a lot like slash message in that it's probably useful on an SMP, but I pretty rarely play SMPs, so I can't really speak to how useful it is. So I'm probably gonna give this just whatever I gave slash message. Once again, I am not keeping track of this now, so future editor me, just put it wherever I put slash message. Slash tellraw. This one is really nice. Anytime you want anything remotely complicated and you want fancy messages, it's incredibly helpful to just be able to push it to the chat like that. I sometimes use it for testing. It's probably an A. Next up is slash time. I mean, this is helpful anytime you want to change the time, anytime you want to know what time it is. It's pretty useful. Do I use it super frequently? No. But am I glad that it exists? Absolutely. So, you know, B. Slash title. This one is a lot like slash tellraw, except that it's big and on your screen instead of small and in the corner of your screen. I mean, in theory, it should be the same as slash tellraw, but in practice, I use it a little bit less frequently, so I'm just gonna give it a B instead of an A. Slash TP. I can't quite decide between an A and a B for this one. I mean, it's quite useful for sure, and I use it pretty frequently. Actually, I don't know why I'd give it a B. It's an A, sure. It's not quite as complex and in-depth as, say, slash give or slash summon, but I use it frequently enough that it's a little bit hard to justify not giving it an A. Slash trigger. This one lets non-opt players modify scoreboards. This is one of those things that people seem to use a lot for making custom functions in like vanilla in servers where they don't want people to have access to slash function, but I personally have never once in my life used it for some reason. So even though it's clearly pretty good, I'm just gonna give it a C. Next up we have slash weather. Now slash weather is a lot like slash time in a lot of ways, but it has the serious downside that it doesn't let you query or ask what weather it currently is. So yeah, probably a C instead of a B. And now last but not least, we have slash world border. I mean, slash world border is pretty helpful. I haven't used it that recently. I actually don't use it that frequently in general, but it is pretty nice, so I'm gonna give it a B. And with that, we have gone through all of the relevant commands. If by some miracle you actually watched through this entire video, thanks. I'm glad it was somewhat enjoyable. I've been thinking about it, and I think that I want to stick to almost entirely command block videos on my channel, but with some weird things like this to mix it up. So if you have any suggestions for other things like this, then hey, feel free to let me know, and I may or may not do them. And with that, I think we are done here. So thank you so much for watching, and have an excellent day. Goodbye.